Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I will be sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all the episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there's many ways to support the show. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can also check out the Patreon page and get all kinds of extra content there from all the previous shows and also new shows whenever I'm able to put them out. And that can be, you can sign up for that and get all that for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and then some other items there with designs inspired by the show made by friends of the show. And there will be some special merchandise coming out in October. Probably not the very first day of October, but around then, the first week or so, in honor of Halloween, of course, and of 5 years. It'll be 5 years of doing the show as of Halloween this year, which is really amazing. So support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Also, please check out links in every episode description to friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who is usually here with me on Saturday nights to talk about whatever we decide to cover, uh, and has her own channel. And then Michael Strange of Troubled Minds Radio and the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own from for 24/7, all weekend, all day long, basically. So, and all the days long. Um, so yeah, that covers all that. This is, I was just saying before I started recording here, whenever plans change or plans fall through for whatever reason, um, these are the shows that I like to do. These experiences shows, uh, and so I hope you all enjoy them because they're not going anywhere. So one of the few things, other shows I do, my other series, if we don't like them, we can scrap them, but not this one. So um, let me get to the file here, and we'll go from there. And let's see. Thank you all for being here and listening in. So this first one says, so all of this happened yesterday at night. My cousin, who was 30 years old, heard heard hard, wet footsteps like 2 meters behind his bed at 3:40 a.m. My grandparents, uncle, and I all sleep on the second floor, except for my cousin. I'm from Lithuania, and my family is really religious. He said he was woken up by the footsteps. My cousin turned on the lights and opened the door to check who was there. The sound stopped, and no living creature was there. At first, I thought that it could be a rat, but he said that the footsteps were like a 100 kilogram, which is 220-pound, man walking with pool slippers full of water. After that, he went to the bathroom and then back to sleep. I'm 70% sure it's either like a dream or he made it up, or at least that's what I want to think. But it sounds real, like too real to be made up. He said all the details. He says that he totally knows what he heard and saw. Yesterday, after that, he went to his parents. His mom said that the same thing happened to her and my uncle, my uncle. I'm sorry, my uncle's past girlfriend. So I'm guessing maybe both different times. I'm guessing there. About 10 to 11 years ago, they heard someone about uh, 100 pound or 100 kilograms, yeah, 220 pounds. Uh, Someone uh, that's not written right. So a man walk up and down the stairs and then pull the doorknob of her door. They slept in my uncle's room. The same thing happened for both the girlfriend and my cousin's mom. Okay, so it was different times. My dad and I slept a few times in that same room and felt a strange feeling like it's haunted, and it always happened at 3 or 4 a.m. Then, I don't know how much time passed, but probably not more than 1 year later, my grandma uh, bought mass for my brother who had drowned, and all this stopped. Now it's happening again. This isn't really comfortable. What could this mean? Any thoughts? And that's where that one ends. Uh, I'm guessing that it's a religious ceremony that is done for. I'm not sure about the religion involved, so I don't really want to guess much there. But yeah, the watery sounds. It is something, and I don't share too many of these because it is sad when it involves someone that had passed away and that had drowned in any manner. But every so often, I will find accounts similar to this where people will hear sounds of footsteps that sound like they're wet or heavy with water, or they'll see apparitions that appear to be covered in water. Um, I don't know why it would happen again unless it's, I don't know, more of a residual thing at this point, or it could be that possibly that it's still the relative that did pass away in that manner, but still wants to be near the family and doesn't mean to freak anyone out, even though they appear to be at times. But still wants to be there, and sometimes it's is heard. Still, it's hard to know. And I do think there are it can the things that happen. In other words, the things that consciousness or spirits can do or end up doing can change over time and or be determined by the thoughts and the mindset of the person. If they It seems like sometimes you get cases where these um, souls or spirits or consciousness, they figure out, oh, I can do all these different things now that I'm not in a physical form. And so they do that, and then they don't do anything else, and they do things that are not quite as frightening, and they're able to do them easy in maybe an easier way. In other words, so they do that, but then there's others that just don't don't think about that possibly. Don't wonder, can I change my sort of my way of doing things? Can I just, in other words, the abilities that we have as a spirit? I wonder if it takes just as much time and or focus and or even just consideration of them to develop them as it would for anything else in the physical world with skills and talents that we develop. And if people don't, if they don't pay attention to that so much, or if they can't for whatever reason, then maybe you get these kinds of encounters. Just thoughts. Again, I have no idea for sure. I'm hoping that it's nothing negative because in that, although it is frightening, I can understand that it's not, doesn't seem to be intentionally harmful or malevolent toward anyone. Um, in what the reported activity seems to be. So, but again, it's really hard to tell with just one account there. So I'd be curious about previous events if there was any, and then events after as well. But moving on to the next one here. This one says, I'm going to start this by saying I wasn't half asleep. I hadn't. Oh, I hadn't been asleep. I forgot. There was one thing I want to say about that last one. And a couple little things. I can understand why the writer wanted to think that the person made it up, but also keep in mind people aren't always making things up. Uh, just keep that in mind. It's one thing to consider that maybe if they are, then they are, but just on the off chance that they're not, be kind. Don't tell them that you're sure. Not that the person here did that, but I'm just saying, don't be kind to the people that claim to have these experiences, because just in case they really did, uh, being unkind to them, putting them down, not saying you don't believe them, saying that's not possible, ignoring what they feel like they experienced, uh, it's not a fun thing to deal with. I've had a little bit of that over time. Not in a directly confrontational way, but just I've had gotten some feelings from people that I could tell they didn't really believe in what I was talking about, and or uh, they just they thought that I must be exaggerating or making it up. So over the years, I've had that and telling all kinds of people about these things. So anyway, sorry about the interruption there, but I thought it was important to point out. So anyway, I was fully awake. I had been watching TV. There was ambient lighting in my room. It was around 4:30 a.m. a few mornings ago. My husband moved in bed, and I felt him get out. I then watched him move around the bottom of the bed, go to the bedroom door, and leave. I assumed he had gone to the bathroom. But after a few minutes, I realized I couldn't hear him in the bathroom. I turned around, and he was right there beside me. I know for a fact I saw him move past me. The bathroom door opened and closed. The dog, who was by my side, watched him. Did I slip into an alternate universe? And that's where that one ends. Um, and these kinds of experiences are wild to me because of that possibility, or because of the possibility of time anomalies where they did see what they thought they saw, but it was some other version, other time, or other version, like they said. Parallel universe. I don't know if they could have slipped there and then slipped back, but the dog also watched. So to me, that rules out the person just having a weird dream experience or hallucination. And they say they were awake. And like I said, I always like uh, to consider that people that when these write these experiences down, they know what they're talking about. So that is a wild one, and I do wonder if people can have uh, um, experiences when they're asleep with these other universes. Why can't they have them when they're awake? Yeah, Dawn says in the chat, so easy to fall back asleep too. But Shadow Man, maybe it sounds like the person there is saying they saw their husband. So I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I think it's important to consider the possibilities there of in these accounts where people say they know they were awake, and they saw, and then they describe what they saw to the best of their ability at the time, and they don't say a shadow figure. So I don't know, but that's my biggest thing. If people can have these alternate parallel universe experiences when they're asleep, or in a couple of cases of accounts I've found and shared in the show, people can have them when they survive uh, terrible accidents and they the world and or people in the world seem different to them, and there are people saying that the person seems different to them. Uh, if we have no idea how it works, how this kind of traveling or any of this works, then how can we say that it can only happen while we're asleep or in a situation like that where it's a near death or near death experience or more or death experience some way? Um, there's so many things that happen that are mundane, sort of paranormal events that I wonder why can't these things, these brief, I don't know, transitions that to another version of reality and back, why can't they happen? Um, so anyway, that was a short one, but I find those kinds of accounts really to be fascinating. So moving on to the next one here. This one says, I did the Alcatraz audio tour today with my friend. This is talking about Alcatraz Island, the former prison over off the coast of California, I believe. It says, my first thing is, I swear, almost every single one of my pictures came out blurry. But it has been working, the camera, I guess, has been working perfectly fine all day and perfectly after, too. When I called my mom to show her all the pictures I took today, I told her this, and she said, well, it is haunted. Then my second thing is, during the audio tour, with the headphones and things, I'm not sure where this happened because it happened so suddenly. But right in my ear, somebody whispered, hey, or hello. I said, okay, sure, it's probably just part of the audio tour. But I just asked my friend, who went with me, if he heard it on his tour tape, and he said, what are you talking about? He didn't hear that. I don't know. I feel ridiculous typing this, honestly. Please ignore typos if any. And that's what they say there. Uh, the camera, the pictures. Now I'm looking here back at the start of this. It doesn't say what kind of camera it was, but either way, whether it was digital or the regular traditional camera, for it to work fine before and after, but then not during, is really amazing. And now the voice, it depends to me if it came, because I know sometimes people will wear excuse me, will wear just one headphone in while they're walking around places to listen to things, but also be able to hear other things. So if the sound came into their ear from the ear that was not covered by a headphone, then that is odd. Uh, and it still could be odd if it came from an ear with the headphone on it. The only issue that I've heard it can happen with headphones is that if they are wired in any way, if they have a wire going from the headphones to the device, the cord can pick up things. It's really wild, but actually, funny enough, I have uh, a phone. It's not even a smartphone. It's like a flip phone, and but it has a headphone jack in it. And if you plug your headphones in, it can I can listen to FM radio, and it uses the headset and or the headset cord as the antenna. So I don't know if that really what that does for that part of the experience. But I also find it ironic, and not that this can't happen, but I find it ironic that the person that went on this tour of Alcatraz hadn't heard that it was haunted. But it's also not impossible. There are so many people that are just not into these things, uh, and so they could have gone there just for the history. So and then been surprised by this experience they had there. So yeah, that's really odd. Uh, so yeah, let me see here. Don says that place is haunted. I've also heard of that happening to digital cameras there often. Okay, that's amazing. Including two people I know personally. Wow, yeah. And Mattel, welcome to the chat there. Uh, says, "Oh yes, you get to listen to a device with headphones uh, for like a guided tour, and yes, it is haunted. Yeah. So so that's fascinating. I've heard that. I've heard so many reports of activity there. Um, prisons in general, is just similar to asylums, similar to hospitals, similar to hotels. Uh, there's just so many that appear to have activity going on in them, especially when they've been around for decades or longer. Um, it seems really common. So, but yeah, the headset, the sound, the voice, someone could maybe write that off as some kind of a technical glitch. Um, but it's also hard to tell. So, but then the pictures, that's really amazing to me because of that, and also the fact that the writer went there again, not knowing, not going there for that reason. It's not like if maybe let's say we were to go there, any of us that listen to these shows or do these shows, we'd be interested in that kind of thing. But there's plenty of people that go to places just for the historical context, and they don't pay attention to or aren't even aware of because they don't look into the possible paranormal activity that has been reported in a place. So, anyway, so I thought that was a neat one. Uh, so yeah, and yes, he has been actually. He's talked about it before. I'm looking at the chat here. Matt Sowell has been to Alcatraz. Um, so yeah, I did forget to mention too when I started the show tonight. If anyone does want to call in, you're welcome to. As far as calling in on here on Discord, uh, if you're here for the live recording, but no pressure. But yeah, um, so yeah, that's an amazing one, and it's always neat. I always like when I find these accounts of places like this where there's all kinds of articles written about them. There's all kinds of TV shows, some in some cases books. I'm thinking of the Queen Mary, the boat, the Queen Mary. Other places as well, but it's always amazing to me when I find these accounts from people that have experiences and they're not associated with the place or with any um, paranormal related TV shows or podcasts or whatever when they have the experiences because to me that tells me that there's something to there's something to that and that makes it more interesting to me and seem more possible even that there is stuff going on there because unfortunately these days when it comes to some TV shows, especially reality TV shows, the reality is I don't know why they call them reality TV shows. I really don't. Anyway, let's move on to the next one here before I find anyone. But let's see. This one says, "My friend had an encounter when he was young, tween years, with something, and I'm curious what it could be. He was by himself, sitting on the couch next to a window, watching TV at night. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared, and two big eyes appeared and stared at him. Then the creature started to smile. He describes it as being like the Cheshire Cat eyes and face, but it was too big to be a human face. My friend didn't look at it and pretended he didn't see it, but it continued to stare at him and grin, unmoving. He texted his dad and told him to come join him in the room because there was something there. His dad, unbothered and I imagine getting some snacks from for our TV time, took a few minutes to get to the room. Meanwhile, whatever it was stared at my friend. Once his dad got to the step to enter the room, the other room was uh, slightly elevated, so there was a single step between them. The thing's eyes uh, flicked up to look at his dad, and it faded away, grinning the whole time. With some light searching, I found nothing about eyes and a grin, just faces or human silhouettes people have seen outside. I'm curious about what it could be, or if anyone has any ideas. That's where that one ends. So it sounds almost like a shadow figure with almost like a cartoonish face, but not really a face, just the grin and the eyes, which is really wild because I've heard and read of a few accounts of kids and people over the years seeing what almost look like cartoon figures uh, appearing and then vanishing around them. Also, the way this figure seemed to be aware of the father of the friend that saw this is makes me wonder. That seems to indicate some kind of intelligence. Uh, Not even to mention that it just appeared and then was smiling at the writer there. I do wonder too when these things happen. Uh, yes, there's probably so many cases where these apparitions, whatever they are, there's probably several of them where they want to frighten the person. But sometimes I wonder if it's more of just an attempt to communicate, and even possibly, if you think about it, not be alone somehow if they're in, I don't know, unfamiliar territory, if they're not necessarily even a human consciousness, if there's something else, and they don't mean any harm, but they're just still out there somewhere. Makes me wonder about that in some cases like that, where, again, this figure didn't come at the writer. This figure didn't talk to them or do anything that was terribly frightening, other than just being there, which would be frightening. Um, and I wonder what it means that they left when the father got there. Was it something that uh, maybe the father wouldn't have even seen? It's hard to say with that, because that's another thing too, is that kids tend to be or can be more sensitive to some things than when they get older in some cases. There are exceptions, and I think there are places where people will have experiences, whether they're extremely sensitive or not. But kids and then older people getting near the end seem to have a lot of experiences in a lot of cases. So let's get to the next one here. And that's not the first time I've had an account on the show either of sort of like a cartoonish shadow figure, but with the face. I've had similar cartoonish images, apparitions appear in previous accounts of experiences as well. So this one says something really strange happened to my friend and I recently, and I can't stop thinking about it. We were walking on a wooded path from a parking lot to a park and a full forest, but still I'm sorry, not a full forest. There we go. If I could read, but still enough trees to feel isolated. At one point, a mosquito landed on my friend, and I killed it. Immediately after, the smell of blood filled the air, not just a trace. It wasn't like the whole forest smelled metallic, sharp, and I'm sorry, it was like, wow, I can't read tonight. It was like the whole forest smelled metallic, sharp, and heavy, hanging everywhere around us. Right after that, we saw something we still can't explain. It was tiny, about the size of a human pinky finger, and humanoid. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, and 3 thin wings that were tan. It glided silently rather than flapping. I guess that means its wings. And its skin was tan, smooth, and completely featureless. It ignored us and moved past us for 10 to 15 seconds before disappearing. While it was there, the forest went completely silent. The wind stopped, birds stopped calling, and every mosquito in the area vanished. As soon as it left, the blood smell disappeared, and the forest returned to normal. Both of us got chills and felt like we were being watched even after it was gone. I'm trying to figure out what this could be. Could it be a paranormal entity or something connected to the forest in a way we don't understand? Has anyone experienced anything similar or know of anything like this? And yeah, um, they Fey folk. Uh, Matt's house says in the chat. Also, hello, Mike, as well. Um, this is kind of weird in a way, a little synchronicity here, in that when I found this true story that I just mentioned, I just read on this show, on the day I found it, um, I put it away. I put it in my file here, and didn't get to it. I don't get to these true stories for weeks. And the same day that I found this, of course, I didn't tell anyone because I don't tell everyone about everything I find on the day I find it. That would defeat the purpose of sharing these on the shows. But the day I found this, on that same day, over on Troubled Minds Radio, Michael Strange in his show, he did a show about the haunted forest, uh, just various aspects of that. And he had no idea that I had found this post that day, and I hadn't, we hadn't talked about this in any way uh, to work together to bring it up as part of the topic for the show. And so, and I called in because I like to call into Mike's show whenever I can. And as we were talking in the beginning of the show, it reminded me of this exact post. And so I shared it. I basically I just summarized it. But so here we are tonight as we're recording. Um, I don't know, a week or two after that show came out, and as I was reading that post, I see in the chat people saying hello to Michael Strange. So uh, that's really amazing. Really odd how things work out like that sometimes. So uh, and it's just synchronicities are a whole thing, a whole topic, a whole phenomenon that happens over and over and over again to so many people I know and myself. So yeah, thought that was pretty amazing. That's part of why I was. I think it's part of why I stumbled a couple times there because I was like, well, I was thinking, wow, that's odd timing there to have that happen. So pretty amazing. And Yeah, yeah, synchronistic. Yeah, yep. I'm. That's amazing. Anyway, and again with synchronicities, it's kind of if you're not involved in them, it may seem like it's not that big of a deal, but when you are, it feels kind of a big deal when it happens. So let's see here. We have three more to go through tonight, and then we'll stop. Just checking on things here. Okay, everything still looks good, and all right. So back to these true stories. This one says, last night I went to bed at about 2 a.m. and laid on my bed. I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. I live in a village and it's very quiet here at night. I closed my eyes and heard something beeping very quietly, but I couldn't figure out where the sound was coming from. I'd never heard such a sound at home before. I thought I was imagining things and didn't pay attention. But after a while, after a minute, the sound repeated itself, and so on, 4 times. But I fell asleep. Maybe the sound didn't repeat anymore. But the most interesting thing is that I remember the sound itself. It was dot dot dash. No other sound. Just this just this one, and it was repeated 4 times. In the morning, excuse me. In the morning, I was looking for the Morse code alphabet because it was the only thing that seemed to me to be related to the sound. And it turned out that dot dot dash means the letter U. What could this be? And I also had a terrible dream that night, and that's where that one ends. The dream could be related or not related. It's hard to say. Um, but that's not the first time I've heard of people hearing beeps or sounds, electronic sounds. In some cases, music, but they can't figure out where it's coming from. This was the first time I've heard of something that could have been Morse code like that. Uh, it is fascinating that they heard it even though they're in a small village. Uh, I wonder if there could be some other meaning if it wasn't Morse code and it just seemed like it was. Then what would that be? I don't know, but I really wish that when these things happen that there was a way for people to research it more as it happens and find out if other people are hearing this at the same time. But when you're having these experiences, you're not always thinking about that. Probably even most of the time, you're not thinking about that. So that's part of the issue with that kind of a research uh, or experiment. So still, I don't know what they heard, but it sounds like they weren't asleep yet. So it is odd. This next one says, I'm just here with a question regarding something that happened before a loved one passed away. I know that it's common for people to see lost loved ones, spirits, when they are close to passing away, but this is a little different. My grandfather passed away unexpectedly. Several weeks before he passed away, my grandmother saw the spirits of her own deceased parents in their home. She saw full-blown apparitions of them both, each in a separate part of the home. Has anyone heard of something like this happening? And that's where that one ends. And that's something I mentioned earlier in the show that in other shows before as well that sometimes when people are close to passing, close to leaving this physical plane of existence, they will have experiences they will see apparitions. They will be visited as it appears anyway to them by loved ones that they know. But also in some other cases, there will be paranormal activity that other people in the same space as the person that is dying, other people will also have experiences. So this is not uh, completely uncommon. So my so I found out years ago before my great grandmother on my mom's side passed that my grandma, her daughter, said that my great grandma saw her sisters that had passed away um, visiting her at one point, but they appeared as younger versions of themselves, which is also a possibility when apparitions appear. So, um, looking at the chat here, yeah, the movie Ghost, yeah, yep, it's so these things can happen. Um, so I have one more here. We'll do one more, and then I'll call it a night, just so I don't give myself a major headache here. This one says, uh, when I was around 12, my family went on a vacation to the mountains. Where I live, snow is a rare treat, so we were excited. We built snowmen, ate snacks, and did all the usual vacation stuff. We hadn't planned on staying late, but a sudden snowstorm forced us to stay at an old bed and breakfast. That night, while I was sleeping, I heard a strange noise outside, like someone stepping on sticks and twigs. Curious, I peeked through the curtains and saw a man dancing in the oddest, most unnatural way. I had no idea how long he'd been out there. At the time, I just assumed he was drunk from partying nearby. The next morning, while checking out, I asked the old woman who ran the, who ran the place if any other guests had been disturbed by the noises. She looked at me strangely and said, "You were the only guest here. No one comes unless it's an emergency." I shrugged it off. Maybe I was imagining things. I was only 12, after all. And again, there's that sort of conditioning or modern day idea that kids don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, uh, several years later, my family decided to visit the same place again. We stayed at the same bed and breakfast. The old woman remembered us. That night, I heard the same noise again, only this time it felt like someone was inside my room. I lifted my head slightly, and there he was, the same man, dancing in that same twisted, unnatural way. I screamed and turned on the light. My brother rushed in, and the man was gone. No footprints, no signs of breaking in, nothing. I haven't gone back since. Every time it snows now, I swear I can hear him, just outside, stepping lightly on twigs, dancing in the darkness, waiting. And that's where that one ends. That one is amazing in that they hadn't planned on staying there. Uh, and again, there was no other guests. So I'm just checking here. So it says several years later. So I wonder if there's some apparition that's known to the locals that either the owner of that place wasn't aware of or did not want to talk about at all. And there's this apparition that is known to certain people that have to stay there who does this. And I wonder it sounds almost again, not quite like a human in a way. It sounds almost like fae or otherworldly, like fairy or some other being wanting attention. And when the person went back to the same location, whoever this was recognized them and came back and got closer. So it's really, really a wild one there. Um, and I don't know how to explain that, but it's amazing that they. I mean, it's terrifying. I can understand that, but it's also amazing that the same person had the same experience. I wonder if they're sensitive and they didn't realize it, or if it was just the location and somehow it's a combination of those two, and that's why the writer was the only one to have this sighting of this figure. So either way, it's hard to know. Um, but you know what? I'm going to. I would like to do some more here. So we'll do four more, and then that's where we'll probably stop for the night. And thank you all for being here and listening in, and especially for this extra experiences show. So let's see here, because I'm really enjoying reading these, because I always do. And yeah, yep. So this one says, I was a I almost said secretary. I don't know why I saw the C and the R. Words are hard. Anyway, I was a security guard for a children's hospital. I worked night shifts, 2200 to 800 hours. That would be 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. The hospital is pretty big, with a lot of ground to cover, and we begin our shifts with duties divided up. I volunteered for the lockups, which is when you ensure every door in the hospital is locked up tight for the night. There was one area where cleaning staff didn't leave until midnight, and that was the clinic. It's 5 floors, and everything above the first is haunted. You'd think the morgue or other wings would house the spirits of children long gone, but no. I've talked to the cleaning crews, who were more than happy to leave when the time came, because they've heard and seen things in that clinic, and so have I. My duties were to ensure all lights were off, except for the lobby floor, and all doors were secured until morning unlock. I'd sweep each floor, 10 minutes probably, double check lights and locks. There, I'd hear distant footsteps, doors opening, lights I know I turned off suddenly on. I worked there for 3 months and came to expect it at that point. One night really freaked me out. I was finishing my rounds on the top floor, the last stop before I left the clinic, and my blood froze as I heard giggling from one of the examination rooms. Light poured through the bottom crack of the door, a light I know for sure I clicked off. I shook my head and made my way to the elevator. I wasn't about to deal with that. I'd wait until daybreak started around 5 o'clock to deal with that. And that's where that one ends. Security guards and cleaning crews. Um, Not that things happen, they have experiences everywhere they have a job, but especially security guards. I can tell you, I find so many accounts of experiences, and some of them make it onto the show, others don't because they're a little bit too dark or negative. But it's a common enough thing. People have experiences in places where they work when there's hardly anyone around. So it's really hard to to know what's going on there, except it seems to be something. So, uh, and you add that into the fact that it's a security guard for a medical facility. Uh, that's yeah, that doesn't surprise me that they had experiences there. So, let's get to the next one here. Scroll down a little bit. So, this is a longer one. So let's see what this one's about. This one says, I've been a paranormal skeptic my entire life, but this is the one experience I've had that I cannot explain with my usual rationale. This happened 4 days before my dad died. To set the scene, there were 5 people in the house. My dad, who was comatose and near death at this point, and my mom, who have a bedroom upstairs, and then me, my brother, and my grandfather, who all have bedrooms downstairs. That night I was up late in my bedroom, and around 2 a.m. I heard the very distinct sound of human footsteps in the hallway outside my room, followed by the hallway light clicking on and off. I clearly heard the click of the light switch and saw the light from under the door. I assumed it was my brother, but a few moments later he knocked on my door and asked, "Were you in the hallway just now?" I replied, "No, that wasn't you." I'm sorry, no, that wasn't me. I thought it was you. Well, if it wasn't either of us, who the heck was it? The only other people in the house it could have been were my mom and my grandfather. If it was my mom, she would have had to descend an extremely creaky staircase to get into the hallway, and we would have heard this from or that from our bedrooms. And the sound of the footsteps did not match my grandfather, who drags his feet on the ground and walks with a cane. Confused, I stepped out of my bedroom and went to my grandfather's door. I could hear his loud snoring from inside, confirming it was definitely not him. Then I went upstairs and peeked into my parents' room. My mom was fast asleep, snoring as well. That's not super kind, outing the family as snorers, but anyway. Thoroughly freaked out, I checked every other room in the house and verified that all doors and windows were locked, ruling out the possibility of a random intruder. By this point, my brother was nearly in tears because he was so scared. Neither of us were in a joking mood, considering the family tragedy we were experiencing, so I know he wasn't pulling my leg. The next day, I asked my mom if she was up walking in the hallway at 2 a.m., and she confirmed that she was asleep and hadn't left her room at all that night. It freaks me out so bad because it's an event that has 2 witnesses, my brother and I, and we both heard and saw the exact same thing. We were up for nearly 2 hours afterward, scared as heck, trying to come up with some rational explanation, but we have none. Maybe it was an angel of death. Maybe it was a dead relative visiting my dad. Maybe it was a demon because the vibes in the house were so depressing at that point. I have no clue. But that's the one and hopefully only paranormal experience I've ever had. If anybody has ideas about what it could have been, please let me know. And that's where that one ends. So that's a long one, and I always save the long ones for when there's some kind of double verification in them of experiences, just because I find that fascinating. Uh, I don't know about the demon aspect. Seems like there'd be more negative things going on if it was that. And again, that's such a trope on TV now that TV shows, reality shows, movies make it seem like anytime there's any paranormal activity, it's either residual or it may be the spirit of a person that passed, or it's probably a demon. And I think it's not nearly as common as popular culture makes it appear to be. Uh, deceased relative, possibly. Guardian angel, guardian entity of any kind, possibly. It's hard to say. It is also odd though that they went to the hallway and turned the light off and on. I wonder if it was a message somehow to the brothers. Uh, I don't know. It's scary in that they couldn't explain it, but I don't know. It's really weird because why do that? Unless it was to scare them, but um, yeah, I'm not sure about that one. It's hard to say with that. So I don't know, but and of course it could have something to do with the fact that the father was again not doing well at all. So it's a lot of possibilities there. Let's get to these last two here. This one says, so I was at work this morning, and I was just going about my business, uh, and out of nowhere, bam, the lid of the trash can in front of me just got knocked off the trash can. And these lids are heavy and need to be picked up to move. They don't slide. I work at a hospital, and the body holding area is literally 4 doors down the hall, and the morgue is 2 doors from there. And on the other side, and and down the hall is the ER. And they say they post a video, but for some reason they can't. And that's where that one ends. Again, medical facilities. This happens. I find accounts of experiences in medical facilities so often. It's not necessarily every day when I find accounts of experiences, but uh, they do show up fairly regularly. So what that was again, I don't know. I think one possibility when it comes to these kinds of places, medical facilities, there's so much emotion and energy going on there. It could have even just been something to do with that. It may not have even been a conscious action by anyone. I could imagine just having objects being affected by energy and doing things like that in some rare cases. So that's a short one, but I think it's important to share. And the next one is a little bit longer again. So, but yeah, lots of experiences with medical facilities from what I've heard and read. This one says this happened. I'm sorry. This has been bothering me for a couple of decades. When I was a teenager, I broke my leg and had a cast that extended from my toes all the way up to my thigh. I had just gone to bed, and I remember it being dusk outside, so there was still some light in the room. Suddenly, I realized that I needed to use the restroom, which was annoying given how difficult it was to get around. I got up to go, and coming back into the room, I tripped on something, and as I was falling, everything slowed down. I was unable to stop myself from falling, as my arms were tangled in my crutches, and I realized that my forehead was on a direct collision course with the corner of my very sharp, very dense formica desk. I knew I was falling hard and fast. Again, I couldn't stop myself or move quickly enough, even though it seemed like time slowed down. The middle of my forehead was absolutely about to have an extremely hard direct hit with the corner of this desk, and there's a good chance that if I was knocked out or incapacitated, I wouldn't be found until morning. I remember processing all of this and bracing myself for this is going to be bad. Just before, or as, my head hit the corner, there was a flash of bright blue light, and I found myself in my bed, under my covers, and with my leg propped up on the pillows I kept for that purpose. I wasn't injured. I had not been sleeping. I had not just woken up. I was not groggy. It was disorienting and extremely confusing. But my mind was very clear. It was difficult to get to sleep after that, just trying to wrap my brain around what had happened. But I also had this peaceful feeling. Has anyone else experienced something like this? There were no drugs or alcohol involved. I was at the point of healing that pain management was no longer necessary. I had the pillows to prop my leg up only because it was a cast that was bent at the knee, so it was more natural to lay down with something to elevate my legs. Also, to add, we've all had those dreams where you fall and your body jolts itself awake, usually when you are just starting to fall asleep. This was definitely not that, and that's where that one ends. And that one is amazing. Uh, I wonder if some greater, I don't know, force in reality, some guardian again of some type, uh, did something. It almost sounds like time was messed with, in a way, to where they never even. It was I don't know. It's really that one's really odd to me how to explain that. In that they were in one position 1 second and then in a completely different one the next. Um, it really is wild to think about how that could be arranged, that could be done. Uh, I don't know. I'm glad that it happened that way and that uh, this there was no damage. The person wasn't harmed at all. I'm really glad that that turned out okay. It does sound like that could have been terrible. Uh, Again, if you're already on crutches and then you were to have this direct impact on your head and you couldn't easily get to medical care, uh, that could have been terrible. So I don't know. I wonder if there was some kind of intervention from someone, some consciousness out there that also had the power to somehow either stop it or rewind reality to a point or just shift things to a point where they're back in their bed. I'm not sure with that one. So, and I do like to share those because to me that goes beyond just a simple uh, quote unquote ghost story. That's that's something other, and but it's also something that's not negative as far as I can tell. So I do like those kinds of accounts. I just wish these kinds of positive forces or consciousnesses would do more um, for everyone and for the world. But that's my own problem, I guess. Um, anyway, So yeah, I think that's a good place to stop it for tonight. Thank you all for listening and being here. And yeah, this was a lot of fun to do this again. Uh, I couldn't really ask for a better backup show type than this. And so thank you all for listening in, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.